Us discuss about inheritance. Under inheritance, we are going to study basics of inheritance, using super, creating multi-level hierarchy, and finally method overriding. So let us move to inheritance basics. What is inheritance? Inheritance allows a class to inherit the instance variables and methods defined in another class. How a class can inherit another class? A class, in order to inherit another class, we use a keyword called extends. A class that is inherited we call as superclass. A class that does inheriting we call as subclass. So let us discuss all these concepts with respect to an example. Consider the following program. So with respect to this program, I am going to discuss the basics of inheritance, what we have discussed. Now here you see that I have written a class called A. Inside this class called A, I have declared two instance variables, that is I and j. Then inside the class called A, there's a method called show ij. So what this method is trying to do, this method is trying to print the values of I and j, right? So here you see that inside system.out.println, I have used double quotes. Double quotes is nothing but it is a string. So this string I want to concatenate the value of I. So in Java, whenever you want to concatenate a string with a value, you should use a plus symbol. The plus symbol acts as a concatenation in Java, right? Now, the show ij method is trying to access the instance variable called ij. It can access? Yes, it can access, because show ij and instance variable ij belongs to same class called A. Right? Now let us move to a class called B. But what this class called B is trying to do, this class called B is trying to extend a class called A. When class B is trying to extend a class called A, this class B is going to inherit all the members of class A. When I say all the members, the class B is trying to inherit the instance variable called I, is going to inherit the instance variable called J, and is going to inherit a method called show ij. So this class B extends A, we call class B is trying to inherit the members of class A. So whenever any class wants to inherit another class, we need to use a keyword called extends. You see that? Extends is S is very important. You should never miss this S. Now let us see what this class B contains. This class B is having an instance variable called k, followed by a method called show k. So let us see what this method is trying to do. This method show k is trying to print the value of I, is trying to print the value of j, and then is also trying to print the value of k. Now let us see whether the method show k can access the instance variable I and j. I repeat, whether the method show k can access the instance variable I and j. Where this instance variable I and j are present, the instance variables I and j are present inside the class called A. But this instance variable I and j are present inside the class called B. What's your answer? It is present? Yes, it is present. Why? Because my class B is trying to inherit all the members which is present in the class called A. Since class B is trying to inherit all the members of class called A, so that's why my class B can access the instance variable I and can access instance variable J, right? Yeah. Here you see class B is trying to extend class A. In other words, class B is trying to inherit class A. Since class B is trying to inherit class A, we call class B as subclass. Class B is trying to inherit a class called A. So the inherited class, we're going to call it as super class. Let us move to class called demo. Inside this class called demo, I have written a main method. Inside this main method, I have created an object of a class called A, and this object I'm trying to store in a variable called super OB, and the type of this object is A because super OB is trying to refer to an object of a class called A. Next, I have created an object of a class called B, and this object I am trying to store in a variable called sub-OB, and the type of this variable is B because sub-OB is trying to refer to an object of a class called B. Yes. Now, to the object of a class called A, I am trying to access an instance variable called I, and to this instance variable I am trying to assign a value called 10. Similarly, using an object of a class called A, I am trying to access an instance variable called J, and for this instance variable I am trying to assign the value called 20. Now let us see whether an object of a class called A, what is the object of a class called A? That is super OB. Now let us see whether object of a class called A can access the instance variable I and J, right? So let us move to class called A. So inside this class called A, I'm having two instance variable, that is I and J. Since my class A is having two instance variable I and J, super OB, which is an object of a class called A, can access both instance variable I and J. Therefore, these two statements are correct. Next, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to print the contents of super OB. Next, I'm calling super OB dot show ij. What this super OB? Super OB is nothing but it's an object of a class called A. So inside this class called A, let us check whether we have a method called show ij. Inside the class called A, I have a method called show ij. So since I have a method called show ij, super OB, which is object of a class called A, can access show ij. So this statement is also correct, right? Next, I have written sub OB dot I. What is sub OB? Sub OB is nothing but it is an object of a class called B. Now, object of a class called B, it's trying to access instance variable called I, J, and K. And for this each instance variable, it's trying to assign a value. That is, for I, it's trying to assign 7. For J, it is trying to assign 8. And for K, it is trying to assign 9. So let us check whether object of a class called B can access these three instance variable. So in order to check, let us move to class called B. Now, inside the class called B, I have instance variable I and J. I have, what's your answer? Yes, I have, because my class B is trying to inherit all the members of class called A. So that's why my class B is having the instance variable ij. So, and not only that, my class B is having its own instance variable called k. So that's why sub OB, which is an object of a class called B, can access all these three instance variable. Now I'm trying to print the contents of sub OB. Then sub OB, what is trying to do is trying to call a method called show ij. Now let us check whether show ij method is present inside the class called B. Show ij is there inside the class called B? Yes, it is there. Where? It is there inside the class called A. But since my class B is trying to inherit class called A, show ij method is visible inside the class called B. So that's why object of a class called B can call this show ij method. And finally, I'm calling show k method. And show k method is present inside the class called B. Yes, show k method is present inside the class called B. So sub OB, which is an object of a class called B, can call this show k method. So now all the statements are correct. It's correct. Is correct and is correct. I hope you understood the complete program. Let us move to next slide. A subclass includes all of the members of its superclass, but it cannot access those members of the superclass that has been declared as private. Let's see this statement with respect to an example. Let me do a small change to this program. Right now, by default, all the members of a class are public. I repeat, by default, all the members of a class is public. Now, I want to make one of the instance variable of class A as private. In order to make one of the instance variable as private, we need to use a keyword called private. So let me prefix private before the data type. Private int I. Now what this statement says is instance variable I has access specifier called private. So anything which is private will be visible inside the class only. It cannot be visible outside of the class. In other words, the instance variable I cannot be accessed outside of the class called A. Now in this program, my class B is trying to extend class called A. When my class B is trying to extend a class called A, my class B can inherit all the members of a class called A but except private members. I repeat, a subclass can never inherit the private members of a superclass. Now with respect to example, class A is superclass and class B. So with respect to our example, class A is superclass and class B is subclass. So a subclass can never inherit the private members of a superclass. Now, when class B is trying to extend class A, my class B is going to inherit instance variable called J. It can inherit the method called show ij, but it can never inherit the instance variable called I. So therefore, in our program, inside show k method, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to access a variable called I. I can access? No, I can't access because I is of type private. Anything which is private cannot be inherited by subclass. So therefore, this statement is an error. Let us move to class called demo. So inside my class called demo, what I'm trying to do. So what is Super OB? Super OB is nothing but it is an object of a class called A. Now this object of a class called A, it is trying to access an instance variable called I. Now you see this instance variable I is of private. Anything which is private can be accessed inside the class only. It cannot be accessed outside of the class. So right now you see that this variable I am trying to access inside the method called main, and this main method belongs to class called demo, so which is not possible. So this statement is an error, right? Super ob.j, is it correct? Yes, it is correct because j is not a private instance variable, right? So next time printing, next time calling super ob.show ij. So this is also correct because by default show ij is public. Now what is sub ob? Sub ob is nothing but it is an object of a class called b. Now what this object is trying to do is trying to access an instance variable called I. So now my class b has instance variable called I. No, it does not have. Why? Because as I said, my class B can never inherit private instance variable. So that's why this statement is now class B object is trying to access an instance variable called J and is trying to access an instance variable called K. It can access, yes, it can access because my class B is trying to inherit class called A. It can inherit all the members of a class called A but except private members. Since J is not a private member, my class B can inherit J instance variable. So that's why this statement is correct. And my class B is having its own instance variable called K. So that's why this statement is also correct, right? So finally what I'm trying to do, so these two statements are also correct. That's what we have seen previously.